This episode is brought to you by the Catholic Money Summit.
Welcome back to the Catholic Money Summit. I am thrilled for you to be joining in on this session. This interview is one that I've been looking forward to. I actually had the privilege of meeting in real life a couple of months ago, Sam and Rob Fatzinger, and they are joining me in this interview to talk about large family finances. Rob and Sam, thank you so much for joining.
Thank you for having us.
Yes,
Happy to be here.
the last time we were hanging out was on a beach in Cozumel. And that was a very delightful way to meet you guys and to be able to hang out and meet other people in the Catholic space who are also kind of personal finance connoisseurs, if you will, and passionate about that topic. So it was really fun to meet you guys. And I'm thrilled to hear more of your story tonight in this interview. I know a lot of people have asked us in the last couple of years, especially, just how does a family make it anymore? How do you have more than 2 kids and actually meet any sort of a financial goal in your life? Or can we even afford to be open to life after 3 kids? These are questions that young Catholic families are asking themselves because they feel like there's no way out. They're stuck. And I think you guys are a beacon of hope to them. And so I would love to hear if you guys would be willing to share just a little bit about your family and, how many kids you have and just how many years you've been married. So just give us a little bit of a recap on your fam.
We were married 1989. It'll be 34 years in May. Happily married 29 years, give or take. Reflecting out the good days, bad days, this and that, just to let people know it's not always easy. We have 14 kids. Last 2 are adopted, 12 birthed by Sam here. We have 11 grandkids, 2 more on the way, so 13 grandkids.
Congrats.
Total. Our 4 oldest are married. We have 5 kids left at home. So 9, what's that? 9, yeah. 9 have moved out for now. We'll see if any come back. So,
8 have graduated from college. Most have graduated undergrad debt-free, and we live in the Washington metropolitan area. So we live in an expensive area and expensive place.
That's quite the feat. So you guys have been married now 30 years. Have you always been on the same financial page? And if not, kind of what did that process look like to getting on the same page?
we actually always have been on the same page financially. We tell people sometimes when we give talks, if we don't ever fight about money for some reason. We fight about everything else. We have the color of our skirt, and I think it's gray. She might call it a different color, but money is one thing we pretty much always agree on. We had decided early on when we were engaged that we would just be open to life and however many kids God gave us. So we started planning our finances then with that in mind. And so that was one of our top goals. And our other, to be debt free and, be able to provide for all these. And I guess our other goal, 1A or 1B, was Sam wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. Ever since we were dating, I knew that. And engaged, we had talked about that. And she was actually still in college when we got married and working part-time. So we never really had 2 real salaries, so which actually helped.
Yeah, I was gonna
We
say
tell people that every young couple getting married should start off dirt poor because then you totally trust God with all his hands. I was the youngest of 9, so I was raised very simply, and I watched my mom, pinch pennies and add bread to the eggs to make them stretch and buy dented canned food. So I knew we could do it. We also, Rob always made sure, even though I didn't make a lot of money, that he pocketed anything I did make. So we did live on one salary. We actually ended up getting pregnant on our honeymoon. So that was exciting and a beginning to a wonderful adventure. Then when our oldest was 6 months old and I got pregnant again, and we had just signed a contract to open up our own business. We had a Catholic Christian bookstore, so we knew that God was going to be totally in control of our business because we had no idea how to run our own business, of our family, because here we were expecting 2 children, 14 months apart, and being a stay-at-home mom, and my husband had to quit his full-time job to run the bookstore. So
Mm.
big trust and, putting all of our faith in that God was in control of all of this.
Do you think that
And
it helped that you got used to living off of just one income? Because I see so many families now where, they were independently working on their own for a couple of years, then they got married, and it was just I don't know, kind of our culture of just like you just live now off both these incomes. And then it almost becomes something that they can never get away from. And so, do you have any advice for, how a couple could, if they want to go down to one income, how could they interrupt relying on double incomes to actually be able to swing one income?
right. I mean, if you're already doing that, living on 2 incomes, it's more difficult. We purposely every time she got her paycheck from her job, it went into a savings account. It didn't go into the checking account or get mixed in with household money. It was just set aside separate. And that money was what we used to help open up the Catholic bookstore eventually. So, and that worked out. But if you've already done it, I guess you could start weaning back, start cutting back as much as you can. And, especially if you think you're going to want to be a stay-at-home mom or something like that, where you are going to have, that one income disappear.
Right.
But you could, start by cutting back and, living on part of it and banking the other part. If nothing else, at least you'll have a nest egg and an emergency fund, set aside.
And I think that one of the positive things that came out of COVID was that so many families saw that they could work from home, or that a lot of online things. So we saw so many, even though COVID was one of the worst times in our lives, it was so good for so many of our friends. A lot of our friends had just had babies and were planning on going back to work, and they didn't have to. They were working from home. So the good part of that was that so many families were adjusting and seeing, and businesses were accepting that, hey, we can actually do this. So, I just always wanted to be a mom. So I know that everybody doesn't have that goal. Again, I was the youngest of 9. I had lots of nieces and nephews, always worked in childcare, and I was a nanny, and I was an early ed special ed major. So I was always surrounded by kids. So that was my goal and my dream. And I'm grateful that that was also God's dream for me. But it was just really important for me, whether, no matter what I had to do, cloth diapers, not eating out, not going on fancy vacations, buying used cars. I would have done anything. And we also had a huge support network of not only our family, but the community, our neighbors, our friends, our church community was a huge support from that.
Yeah, we've lived in the same town for over 50 years. So extrovert here knows everybody in town more or less. So we get lots of hand-me-downs and, assistance.
The funny thing is, when you have, especially the first 12 who were all under the same roof, people would drop off bikes, shoes, cleats, anything, because they're like, somebody in that house is size 7. Somebody in that house would ride a 12, inch bike. Someone in that house would love this. We were constantly being doted on by our friends and our neighbors and our parish. Again, a lot of people who hear that think, oh, that's weird, but not in the town we're from. I mean, when I had a baby, and happens with everybody, we have meals for 4 months. I mean, people are that's everyone to move to Bowie, Maryland. I mean, that's just the way we roll.
It's the main reason we had kids.
Yeah.
Free food.
I mean, come on. And I'm not a very good cook. So Rob's like, if I want to eat well, I mean, come on.
But going back to what Sam was saying about working from home during COVID, one of our kids, she works in the evenings from home. So she's, around during the day with the kids. And then, in the evening she works. So she has a job where she can work from home.
Wow.
So, I mean, so that, it's not, quitting completely, but it's, it might be an option for people to look around since employers were being, more flexible
Mhm.
recently. So
And then our other daughter is pregnant with her third, and her oldest isn't even 3 yet. And she is a tutor because online tutoring became huge. So she just plugs into this tutoring company. She puts what hours she wants to work each week, and bingo, she gets every time her hours are full. And she's making really good money for doing tutoring while her kids are napping or while they're in the other room with their dad or with her sister. Her little sister lives down the street. So
yeah, if you have a skill like that you could,
Mhm.
market part time because she was a math major and a high school teacher before she got married and started having kids. So she's obviously qualified to be a math tutor, but other people might have other skills or something they could do part time online.
Totally. Yeah, it does make, now there's no shortage of ways to earn even a side income. 40, 50 years ago, if you wanted to have a part-time gig, you had to leave the house, arrange childcare, all these obstacles. So in some ways, it's never been easier for women to be able to stay home if
Mhm.
that's what they would like to do and also earn a little bit to kind of supplement the family's income. So I do love that option has grown over the last several years, especially just inflation and all the things that have now hit families. I'd love to
Yeah,
hear.
we were discussing that. Yeah, all the things. 'Cause in the '90s when we were first starting out and having all of our kids, a whole bunch one after another, we didn't have as many expenses or things to do. We had no cell phones, we had no cable, there was no internet.
True.
Those are hundreds of dollars every month that we didn't have to spend. We made sure we paid our mortgage and fed ourselves, and then had some fun with leftover money. But
Right.
and Rob just retired last year, and we had this all planned out that he was going to retire, and then the income went crazy, and gas and groceries and all this, extra stuff that we weren't planning on, and we just we just watch a couple kids from our parish a couple hours a week, and that just kind of worked out. They needed
Mhm.
somebody, and we're like, hey, sure, why not? It was fun for our youngest to have other little kids around because it's hard being the youngest of 14
Mhm.
when you have when you have a niece older than you.
and we do know some young couples that were have young kids and do like a mini daycare in their home.
Mhm.
I mean, just different options. So
Whatever you need is
yeah,
there.
yeah. If that's your desire to be a stay-at-home mom, maybe you can watch another kid or two. But
Have you ever had a season kind of in your marriage where you just finances came into your discernment when you were considering being open to life or not?
I would. We went through different financial up and downs. I don't think it ever, at least not me, it never affected my desire or trust to have more children. I don't think we ever said we better stop at 3, 8, 10, or whatever number because of money.
Mhm.
And once you had the house and some of the fixed expenses, it's really, I know people always throw out these numbers. It costs $250,000 to raise a child or whatever, but there's a whole lot of economies of scale there that,
Right.
it just, it doesn't cost that much to have another one. I know people, but we don't pay for our kids' college and they were homeschooled. They weren't going through private school. So, we weren't thinking, oh no, we're going to have to educate Catholic education, and then we're gonna have to put them through college. We're like, no, you're homeschooled, and
We're mean.
we're
Get pick
mean.
your own school.
Yeah, you're homeschooled, and you're paying for your own college.
And all that is just all God because the nice thing about that is they go to community college for 2 years and then they go to a state school. And so all of our kids went to a state school. They found scholarships. They got, you know, senatorial scholarships, delegate scholarships, all
Different financial
different
aid, different
financial
things.
aid. And then the nice thing is they're in Maryland. They usually meet another person from Maryland and they all live in Maryland right now. And so all of our grandchildren are real close and in our town. But
That's
it's
awesome.
nice to see these young couples start off debt free and then they're not hindering their vocation, whether they're called to have children or not. We also have had 2 of our sons become focused missionaries because they graduated from college debt free. And they're like, oh, I can give time back to the Lord, not saying, oh, it'd be irresponsible for me to do mission work for a year, for 2 years, because I owe all this money, or my parents paid for all this college education. So I don't want to make them mad at me for going off and becoming a missionary when they paid millions and millions of
Sure.
dollars to school. And an interesting kind of opposite what you said, when our 12th child was about 2 years old, we got a phone call from the local kind of pregnancy center in the area. It's called Gabriel Network, calling to ask if we would help out watching this 12-week-old baby boy for
For a couple
a
months.
couple months. And if we were in dire straits with money, if we hadn't been prudent and goal to say, oh, we can't possibly feed another child or take another child. But because we had been living debt free, my husband was just paying off our house, which was unthinkable. And it was easy for us to say, of course, we'll take in the child. It wasn't irresponsible. It wasn't, more than we could handle.
And then that was 11 years. He's 11 now, well, and since adopted. But I mean, it was supposed to be
It was supposed to be
watch a kid for a couple months while some, birth mom gets some help, and then
yeah.
And now he's 11-year-old driving us crazy.
And then again, we just have always. Rob has been really great with money. He's a banker by trade. I just was always taught to save, 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 and he's just really good about manipulating, making sure money gets into savings and retirement and IRAs and stock and all that kind of stuff. So, God has used that opportunity for us to bless, be able to not only bless other ministries and be able to tithe more, but to say yes to when, and then when that number 13 was a couple years old, we got an email saying there was another little baby that wasn't even born yet that needed to housing for just 1 year. And now we're going on year 7. So who knows what God has in store.
We're done answering the phone call. So that won't be number 15 at our age, I don't think. But let people do that while we play grandkids.
Yeah. So our 4 grandchildren just moved around the corner for us. So we're having fun with them.
Oh, that's a blessing. So would you say that just, I mean, you guys, it's a really unique combination of skills there that you have. And a lot of couples would say, gosh, I wish that, we balanced each other that way. And where, Sam, you're kind of a saver. And then Rob, you were kind of crafting the plan and making sure you prioritized it so that, money went to the priorities first. And that, it just made it easier because then once those were protected, you knew kind of how much you had to spend after protecting those things. And then Sam is frugal by nature and good with finances. So that's a really killer combo there in a good way.
I'm a pain in the neck everywhere else. I'm a horrible housewife. I can't cook. I am not neat and tidy. I mean, for anybody who thinks that, oh, aren't we great? We're like, oh, we just got in a fist fight. No, I'm just kidding.
She would win any fight. So, but yeah, like you were saying, we are both good at saving. Neither of us, particularly like to spend money or waste money. So that helped. I had some banking training. Not that bankers know what they're doing all the time, as the recent bank failures will show you.
College debt is huge. We're trying to get couples now, in college to kind of get them before that.
And actually, we started life debt free. We didn't have any college debt when we got married. We had no credit card debt when we got married. No car loans when we got married. We had a mortgage, and we've lived in 3 different houses over the 34 years. And from day one, the first house we bought, the first mortgage payment, we paid extra on it. I think it was like $20 because we had no money, but I always wanted to pay a little bit extra. And in 1989, when we bought our house, mortgages were 10%.
Right.
So there was more incentive back then.
I know you were probably in kindergarten, but just try to understand.
Yeah, you were building these strong habits that really they paid off over the course of a lifetime. They were small and incremental in the beginning, but look how they've rippled as time has gone on and enabled you to say yes to whatever God's will was around each bend, around each corner. None of us know what we're getting
Well,
into when we get married and we're about to say yes to.
when we give talks to engaged couples and stuff, I tell people, the Lord asks us to trust. He didn't say, okay, in 10 years, I'm going to give you this great deal on this foreclosure and you're going to get in. Like, my mom always kind of joked, like, you buy the worst house in the nicest neighborhood. Well, we got a foreclosure in the nice neighborhood in our town where I grew up. And it was so bad that my sister, like, called my mom and said, "This place is horrible," and she's yelling at me to get the kids out and, like, "Don't touch anything." But we also made the house livable. We didn't, like, go at like, take a loan out to get, like, a fancy kitchen. We did 40 gallons of wet paint, basically, and, fix the toilets and fix the kitchen so we had running water and a refrigerator and an oven and a stove. And then 10 years later, then I actually, Rob saved up and we fixed up the kitchen. So, living within our means and not getting ahead of ourselves. I was just writing about that today. Like, thank God, my first 10 kids, I didn't have a smartphone. I didn't have like social media. And I tell my kids all the time, thank God I didn't have that. Like, it wasn't hard for me to be present to you. I didn't have, we were talking today, like the Amazon button where you clicked and you just order things and it showed up at your house in 2 days. Thank God. So I try to explain to young couples now, like, you have so much more tempting and so much more like, oh, look at this fancy vacation that these people went on. And,
Yes.
like when we went to Cozumel together. I mean, that was the first time we've ever done anything like that. We went to a beach house to our best man, wedding in our wedding. That was our honeymoon. And that was great. We were young and we appreciated it. It took us time to appreciate where, oh, look, we're going to Mexico, where we've been married for 33 years before we ever did anything like that. So a lot of living within our means and setting those priorities. But, these young couples nowadays have, the fancy rings and the fancy weddings with all the trimmings. We had a very simple wedding. It didn't break the bank. And we started off our marriage debt free.
I think that's beautiful that you remarked on that and that you just encourage young couples, to maybe unplug a little bit. That's one of the biggest things that we've seen is a warped mindset of what your life is supposed to look like because social media is telling you that in order for your kids to have this magical childhood, it includes annual trips to Disney World where you surprise them and all these brand new gadgets and the trampoline in the backyard, just everything to the max and then you're in all these traveling sports teams, etc. But the families that that buy into that, if you will, they're the ones that end up feeling crushed financially. And one or two kids in. And so there has to be a different way and you guys, have showed that there is a different way. And it's challenging, some of the ideals that our culture is trying to pass on to families today of just heavy consumerism and hashtag blessed, whatever Instagram trending, whatever is the flavor of the moment thing that you're supposed to be doing or look like. And
Yeah.
just to instead, what I see in you guys in your story, maybe that there wasn't always the technology, but you guys had your compass towards our Lord and his will for your life. And that's where your peace was. That's where your contentment was and in what he was calling you to. And you were clear on that. And so I do think it would behoove young couples to put in the boundaries on the phone or to challenge, when they see things and think that this is now the standard I have to live at, challenge it. And instead, whatever the Lord's calling you to, whatever he's asking you to embrace and to be content in, that's what, where our growth, our holiness, and our mission is found, not in these images that we're fed on social media.
Right. And I don't get the impression that it was easy and we always enjoyed it. I mean, difficult. Sometimes you didn't know how you were going to pay a bill each month, especially early on, or where the money was going to come from. So yeah, and I know we had it easier in some ways. Back then, not as much to spend money on, and living simpler. Even though it was only 30 years ago, it's it seems like the olden days in some ways compared to everything now. But yeah, so it was a struggle at times, but we actually didn't mind being poorish. I wouldn't say that we weren't poor. We had a house, we had plenty of food. I mean, there's real poor people out there, but we were lower middle class, I would say, starting out.
I used to always tell my kids, be great. We would drive by McDonald's. They'd be like, "Oh, I'm hungry." I was like, I am so glad that we don't have lots of money. We would be overweight. We would be poor because we would stop at, all the, after every soccer game. Oh, we're all going out for Slurpees, and we're like, no, that might be easy for you to do, but if I do that, that's like 10 kids getting Slurpees. Or oh, we're going after the swim meet. We're all going out to this pizza place. I'm like, no, that's like a once in a lifetime thing we do on vacation, or once a year thing. Like
Not that bad.
once a year thing we do on vacation. But I look back and I was born in 1968, back in the golden years, back in the ice age. But I look back, I had an amazing childhood. Like I loved my childhood. I had no trauma, nothing. But I cannot tell you, my mom never took me to the park. I don't think she ever took me to the library. Like, I would drag my kids once a week. It's story time. Come on, we gotta go. I mean, she might have taken me to the library to get a book from a bookboard, but I don't remember her ever. Like, my childhood was, you play in the backyard, you come in when the streetlights are out, you play with those neighborhood kids,
We were free range. I mean, in the 70s, I mean, who knows what our parents were doing? We just wandered around.
And if
Everything
I
was
was
safe.
doing something wrong on my bike 10 miles, not 10 miles,
10
5,
bucks.
10 blocks away, by the time I got home, my mom already knew it because so-and-so called and said, "Did you know that Sam was out doing, and that was awesome.
Recycled miniskirt.
Yeah, all the things that we could do. I know it's just so great, but it didn't cost anything. Like my parents never took us on a fancy vacation. Our vacations were hopping in our big station wagon, driving to New York to visit relatives, and that was the best. You meet your cousins, you free range cousins there. You play in the creek, you do all that camping. Maybe beach trip days. But we never ever had Disney trips or Rob's.
I'm more of a princess. I was raised a little bit. I only had a couple siblings, and my parents had more money. So
He's the oldest of 3, and I'm the youngest of 9. So he would go to like the beach and resorts.
or the Caribbean or this or that. So
I still, yeah. But I'm just saying, like, people need to like stop putting their credibility as parents in their wallet. Your children, God will provide. Our children have learned the difference between wants and needs. We still have 4 little boys at home, and God help us to raise them in this technology world. But we have 8 really great adult children, and the 2
and some that could be.
and some on the way. Our other daughter, number 9, is going to be a senior in college next year, and number 10 is going to be a missionary at Camp Damascus this summer. So we keep praying. I mean, our kids are normal. They don't, walk around.
And number 8's in his first year. Not to mention that it's not always easy. Number 8 is in his first year of focus, but if you'd asked 2 years ago, I would have said
He'd be in jail.
he'd probably be in jail this year. So
we're so not kidding. I literally walked into daily mass the other day, and this mom's like, "What did you do to get Dominic not in jail?" Because I've never done it. What do you do? I was like, lots of cold showers and praying to God that God would put people in his lives because he was not listening to us anymore. And God sent people in his lives, and the Holy Spirit smacked him upside the head, and by the grace of God, he listened. Well, after a couple really stupid mistakes, thank God none of them were permanent, except for that tattoo.
Except for the tattoos. Yeah.
But He's like, it's on Lady Guadalupe, Mom, and it's St. Michael on this side. I'm like, I still don't put tattoo on your face. But literally, our kids are not perfect. We struggle and pray constantly for our children. But really, like, they are all financially responsible.
I was gonna mention that they're not as tightwaddish as we are. Probably they do more stuff at their age than we did. We didn't do as much going out or stuff like that. But they're all responsible. None of them are in debt. They all buy reasonable price houses and cars. They all start 401ks or IRAs. When they start working,
A lot of
start
our
emergency
friends' favorite part of the book was when all of our kids took like a little paragraph and talked about how it was being raised. They all got jobs early on. Our oldest daughter owns 5 houses.
Amazing.
Houses. I mean, we're happy we have one right now, one house.
She lives in one. They bought a house, found another one, rented the first one, etc. So they
There we go. Little entrepreneur.
got married 11 years ago. So so now they live in probably a permanent house 5 doors away from us, and they rent the other 4 houses out.
That's awesome.
But she graduated debt free. She paid for her own college. She paid for her own car. Our kids paid for their own phones, their own insurance. We are so mean. That's my only advice. Be mean. I don't know what else to tell you.
But look, you raise
Lessons.
Yeah, I give lessons. I mean, not all the boys. We give our daughters $5,000 to get married, and they can do whatever they want with it. She pocketed some of it and had a small wedding. The other daughter had a big wedding, but bought her wedding dress $100 on eBay.
That's awesome. It's clear. You guys, your financial situation is stable, and you've witnessed being good stewards to your kids, and you've been able to raise kids that see that and know and understand that these are the habits that help you to say yes to God's will, but also just live prudently with money. So what a testament to you guys that you've got budding entrepreneurs out there in the world now. You've got kids that are just being wise consumers. And I think that is a testament that what you did and how you, not only you as a couple handled your money, but then how you witnessed that to your kids, it really did bless them. So thank you guys for that witness.
The older kids got to see that. They got to see it, like, Mom, I need a new bike. And I'm like, pray to your guardian angel. Then the next day, there's a new bike on our front porch.
It's like, oh, it worked.
Literally, when we moved about a mile away, and my kids were like, will our guardian angels know that we moved? Because they were so used to, like, what's on the porch this morning?
Right. But yeah, that's God's providence. He's so
know.
good. Sometimes he can whisper into other people's ears or their hearts, just like that we have a need. And he does that in the body of Christ so well.
And I don't ask for help really, but Sam has no problem. She's not shy about asking for help or what somebody can do for her or help her out. But
that's my secret power.
But she returns. But we return the favor.
Now we have to be the mentors to all these young couples. But it doesn't take much to have common sense and know that there's a family down the street whose youngest kid is 3 years older than my daughter, and my daughter wanted rollerblades. So I called him like, hey, you want to have a chance to have like size 7 rollerblades? She's like, are you kidding me? I have been kicking over these, trying to get rid of them. I'm so happy. Please take them. And then, by the way, do you also want the skateboard or hockey thing? So instead of going out and buying things, we just have this like group network where we're all passing it on. Like those baby bouncy seats that you use like for 3 weeks constantly, but then you don't need them again. The little push toys. We thank God that we have an amazing group of friends in our community, but really that's my secret power. We have Free Cycle in our town now. Even on Facebook, there's like Bowie free giveaway group. People who buy stuff, especially the stuff that the kids only use like 3 or 4 times, it gets ridiculous. So I tell people, ask all the time. Ask your friends, ask Facebook, whatever it is.
Amazing. All right. Well, as we wrap up this interview, we are going to have a fun little lightning round. So I'm going to ask you a couple of questions. Both of you can answer whatever comes to mind or whatever was your answer for this. So, first one, what was your first job?
My first job was, other than cutting grass as a kid, was working at a gas station. I started when I was 15, and I'm old enough. That's when you used to have people would pump gas for you before.
Right.
Well, sir, yeah, you pull up and people put gas in your car.
And I was a nanny at age 15 to 3 little girls who needed aftercare.
Awesome. All right. Next, a purchase you regret.
Probably a classic car I bought, old Camaro. It is now dead. I bought it about 10 years ago. It was fun, but it was an indulgence.
It's what he bought the day he paid off our house.
Okay. There we
So,
go.
when I was upset, my sister's like, "Are you kidding me? Just paid off your house. What? Be happy it's not a blonde or a motorcycle. Let the guy have his classic car."
Or a blonde on a motorcycle. And it wasn't a ton of money, but it was just, yeah, it was
Sure.
yeah, it's an indulgence.
I hardly ever pay full price for anything, so I can't think of anything I really regret. I usually buy stuff from the thrift store or on super sale. Maybe just buying my grandchildren things, and my daughter-in-laws and my daughters are minimalist and they don't want any more things. So
Ah, got it. The collection basket at church. Are you guys envelope, cash in the basket, or electronic givers?
Electronic.
and then sometimes the kids get money put in the basket.
We were delayed electronic. Our church finally decided to join the New World maybe 4 years ago, maybe right around COVID. They started pushing it because people didn't want to mess with baskets. But yeah, other churches were doing it. But yeah, we and until about 3 years ago, we were checking the month envelope people.
Got it. All right. And last one, what money lesson do you wish you would have learned even earlier in life?
Earlier, saving for retirement. We didn't have a lot, but I probably could have started saving a little bit earlier. We were, just trying to stay above water, paying off the mortgage a little bit because it was the 10% mortgage, putting extra in there and making sure we had some money in an emergency fund. So there wasn't a lot left over, but I'm sure I could have squeezed out, even $50 or $100 a month. It was probably, I was probably in my early 30s before I really started saving for retirement, fully funding 401ks and IRAs and, stuff like that. I started doing that in my 30s, and then early 40s, I really picked it up. But so, yeah.
They didn't have thrift stores when I was younger, so I don't know. Maybe like I tied to my parish, but there also weren't as many ministries. Like I probably would have liked to tie more to like a specific ministry, but really it wasn't until recently where you had a plethora of, pregnancy centers. And we were just talking to our daughter the other day about, helping people who are in human trafficking, like trying to find ministries for that. Even 10 years ago, we were searching for one. Now there's a lot of support groups for that. So probably, I don't know. I didn't have a lot of money when I was a teenager, but maybe just saving more, tithing more.
Not buying as many shoes.
Yeah.
Shoes are fun.
Shoes are fun. I mean, peak high tops, you had to have at least, all the colors. But they didn't have them when I was younger. Not like now.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for sharing your wisdom tonight. I know people are probably curious about how they can keep in touch with you. You guys did write a book, and this is available for purchase probably where? On
Amazon.
Amazon's the
Amazon.
easiest.
That's probably the easiest.
Yeah.
And then
I am on Facebook, Sam Fatzinger. I'm on Instagram when I'm not on social media during Lent, but that'll be over next week. Instagram, I'm Sam JMJ. I have a blog. We have a family blog called fatsam.com. And Baby Steps I Will Be Done is my old blog that I used to do before I had foster kids. It was one thing when I was nursing babies and blogging, but then I was watching other people's children. I stopped blogging as I was taking care of the children. So I try to put stuff back on every once in a while. But, we are, still have a 6-year-old at home and 11-year-old who take a lot of time. And now we have, like I said, 13 grandchildren all in our state, pretty much. So we don't do a lot of,
Not as much blog
yeah,
posting or as
that,
we used to.
Sure. So if people want to learn more, certainly the book, and then they can reach out on
Mhm.
social media or head on over to your blog. And I can go ahead
Yeah,
and link those below this interview. But yeah, thank you guys again for joining us. I hope everybody enjoyed this interview and goes on to enjoy many other interviews in the Catholic Money Summit. God bless everybody.
This episode was brought to you by the Catholic Money Summit. Check out dozens of interviews now at CatholicMoneySummit.com. That's CatholicMoneySummit.com.